Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. It's a great evening, and we're based out of Delhi, and it's raining. It's a great evening here, back here, and we're pleased to have all of you who joined us together. I can see a lot of people are already there waiting for us, but we'll get started quickly. So I'll set up the context for all of you guys before we begin for today's session. We already know, and some of you have already participated. A lot of you guys must be new here. So, what are we going to discuss here? Today's this session is, the introductory and problem statement explainer session under Hack for Change at Charcha. So, this is basically a hackathon by the Nudge Institute and Google, and powered by Hack2Skill. And we're going to discuss a lot more here in depth about this overall initiative, about the problem statement, about the expected solutions. How is one team supposed to submit their ideas? How does the timeline looks like? What's going to happen in the offline, hackathon piece? We're going to cover everything in today's session here. Keep you know an eye, and keep watching us throughout the stream. We'll be having joined by our speaker guest today here, our mentor, who's part of the Nudge Institute itself. He'll give us a brief background about the overall vision, the about the hackathon, the problem statements, and all of those. So, without any further ado, I'll quickly switch to the agenda here, which I just briefed you guys. We'll talk about the brief of the hackathon, who are the eligible candidates who can participate, how does the themes look like, right? If you have already gone through Hack for Change's website, you must have seen some open innovation themes that are listed there. We'll talk about those in details while we go and deep down the session today itself. We'll unveil the perks and the benefits. So of course, it's a hackathon. You can always expect prize pools. You unexpected things would be you get funding out of it, right? But of course, as a hackathon, you have perks, you have benefits offered by different organization, or the uh, Google and Nudge, who are actually presenting this to us. And we'll talk about a little bit about the timeline. How does that look like from today onwards from here? And of course, we're going to meet our speaker today. So what we'll do is we'll quickly run past through you guys what is this initiative is. I'll talk very less about it because we've already been starting that conversation here. So it's a dynamic 30 hours hackathon that we have planned for all of you, and it's presented by the Nudge Institute and Google, of course, and we are powering this as Hack to Skill. Uh, and the category of people that we are expecting here to be is students, working professionals, and startups, right? Those are the different vertical of people that can eventually look into this hackathon, contribute their ideas, and therefore we can take that forward from here. Focused on open innovation themes, we are not specifically abide to certain problem statements. We are just talking about open innovation themes here, which are into agriculture, scaling, inclusion, and entrepreneurship. So if you have any great ideas with you, or you had any great ideas in the past, why don't you check it out, right? Check it out today. Go to hack4skill.com and you'll find Hack for Charcha there. So that's the prize pool that we are offering. Total cash prize of 5 lakh rupees, which has a breakdown wherein we are giving away 2.5 lakhs to the winning team, 1.5 lakhs to the runner-ups, and of course 1 lakh to the second runner-up. Not just that, we have a lot of offerings from Google this time. We've got of, you'll get access, winners will get access to developer community programs by Google, right? Not just that, you'll get access to their programs, their events which happens offline. One of the examples could be the recently happened Bangalore, Google IO Connect. Similar programs, you'll be called up, you'll be invited for all of those. So I'll not talk about more here, because the man himself, who has the brains behind this whole initiative and has been running this for the past years, will be joining us here. So we just talked about who are eligible, who can participate. Student developers, startups, innovators, and freelancers is what we are expecting. Bring in your solutions. We are open for everything. These are open innovation themes. Ground is open for you guys to play around with themes, play around with your ideas, join ideas together, bring in your own teams, and we would be more than happy to explore your ideas and walk you through the next phases. So without any further ado, I would like to call up Manoj Joshi, who's the associate director, the Nudge Forum, with us. Hi, Manoj.
Hey Shakti, hi. Thank
Hi,
you so
pleasure
much
having
for
you with us.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. And at least one thing we have in common is that we are based out of Bangalore and it's been raining here since morning. So great to have. Great to be here. Great to be in the presence of so many hackers and coders, and great to be with Hack to Skill, which is one of the better organizations, conducting hackathon that we've known and we've been sort of partnering with. So, like you've mentioned several times, Shakti, the hack is being co-hosted by the Nudge and by Google, and I'm pretty sure that everyone here knows, Google. So I'll take a minute and take a like a minute and tell folks a little bit about the work that the Nudge Institute does, so that there is some context to that, and then we can go into the details of the hackathon. We can go into the details of the problem area and whatever else that you folks think is important and vital to be covered in the session like today. So here I go. The Nudge is, so the Nudge is a not-for-profit organization. So we are a Section 8 company. We are an action institute that is working towards a poverty-free India in our own lifetime. As an organization, the Nudge focuses purely on livelihoods, both rural and urban, and we aim to partner with governments, with markets, and with CSOs in order to ensure that resilient livelihoods, are built for the poorest. Right now, I in particular am part of something called the Nudge Forum, which is an initiative at the Nudge, wherein we are creating a platform for Samaj, Sarkar, and Bazaar, right, which is basically the government, the markets, and the civil society to come together for continued conversation, right? And as part of the work that we do here at the Nudge Forum, we organize a livelihood convening every year. It's called the Charcha. So last year this was held at ISB in Hyderabad. This year it is being organized at India Habitat Center in Delhi from the 20th to the 22nd of August, right? And it is a convening which is attended by the best minds that are working on livelihood related issues and livelihood related challenges and problems in the country, right? The hack in particular that we are speaking about today is actually being conducted as part of this larger effort of the Nudge Forum and the Nudge and Google. So this is a quick overview of the organization that I belong to, a quick overview of the work that we are trying to do at the Nudge Institute and the Nudge Forum, which is more closely associated with Google in bringing this hack to life along with Hack to Scale. So I'll take a pause here and wait for any your cues from you in terms of what should we discuss next.
I should be muted. Okay. Thank you so much, Manoj, for pulling that up. Bringing those and enlightening us with background itself, and giving us a brief about the Nudge Institute and the Nudge Forum altogether. We'd like to know more about the vision. What was the vision behind Hack for Change? Why the name? And what are we actually expecting?
Sure, sure. No,
If you
that's
can
a
throw some
very
details.
yeah. No, that's a very interesting and a very valid, like question. You know, based on what we've observed, like happening in the tech space, and in general in the solution space, so to say, what we've observed is that much of the focus of the top engineering talent, the top tech talent in the country, right, is really on solving what I would call first world problems, right? So in some ways, these are not real problems, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So a lot of engineering time and money and energy is being spent on optimizing for delivering groceries to your home or my home in less than 10 minutes and less than 5 minutes and less than 4 minutes and so on and so forth, right? A lot of energy and time and money, engineering time and money and resource and mind share is being used, for example, in organizations like the Ubers of the world and Olas of the world and Rapidos of the world, optimizing routes and making complex algorithms so that you and I have to wait for 30 seconds less and 20 seconds less for the driver, right? Now, I don't mean to demean any of this. All of this is great effort and very, very needed and uh, cutting edge and so on and so forth. But it's also important to understand that on the other hand, right, we are a very large country of 1.4 billion people, right, and there is a lot of disparity in terms of opportunities, in terms of like prosperity and where people are, right? And what we feel is that there are a lot of serious and critical issues that need to be uh, uh, solved, that spotlight needs to happen on these as much as they are happening on the delivery problem and optimizing route, like problem, right? So the point is, how do we make millions of small and marginal farmers profitable and sustainable, right? This is a problem that is here and now and needs to be solved for. How do we democratize information for the bottom 50% of the population, right? How do we solve for the problem of access to credit for the millions of small businesses and nanopreneurs in the country? How do we improve access to, say, digital infrastructure in the country, right? So there is a very long list of such really important problems that need to be solved that are holding India back, right? And what we really feel is that there should be a spotlight on these problems also. The engineering talent in the country, the tech talent in the country should also spend time in solving and understanding these issues. It's also very important to understand that all of these issues are extremely large, not just in terms of size, but also very, very complex, right? And need to be solved through a tech first approach, right? And therefore, it is extremely important that the young tech talent in the country, all the people who are there listening to you and me today, need to be made aware of these issues and sort of need to be made aware of the complexities of these issues as a first step. At least bring these problems in the awareness spectrum of the tech talent in the country, right? And therefore, the purpose of the hackathon is really to, showcase all of these problems through four different areas: agri, skilling, inclusion, and entrepreneurship, and bring the sort of collective interest of the best talent in the country in the technology space on these issues. That's the larger goal of the hackathon.
No, that absolutely makes sense. Means I totally agree that most of the population is solving the World War One problems, as you say. But we definitely have to look into such niche problems that are being skipped, and we can solve that. And it's kind of like not an easy go in the first step, but it's a process of squaring the circle. But let's keep that doing. And the vision behind seems to be very, very interesting to me, and I actually believe that that's
Yeah.
interesting for the participants as well.
Yeah. In fact, Shakti, just to quickly take a minute, because you raised a very important point, and you said that this cannot be solved in a single day or in a single step or by one particular event, right? And I think you're absolutely right. The hack really serves two purposes, two very specific like purposes. The first purpose, like I said, is to get the young tech talent to be exposed to the livelihood problems in the country, right? And through the hack, get them to engage deeply and meaningfully with whichever problem area that they choose, right? And at the end of the hackathon, right, if all of the participants have a better understanding of the problem area or have a better understanding of the problem that they're trying to solve out of agree or skilling or inclusion or entrepreneurship, right? And at least some of those participants move from being just aware about that issue to doing something, right? Showing interest, moving into a desire or an action state in the IDA sort of funnel to doing something about those problems. I think that will be a wonderful outcome for the hackathon. The second is, each of these problems, to be very honest, also represents an opportunity, right? There is an opportunity of creating a solution that solves a real problem for a farmer or for an entrepreneur or for whoever else, right? And there is a use case of creating a viable and feasible solution and generating business value in the process, right? So there is a very good opportunity also of using this um, medium to create solutions which can then be built into businesses or which can then be picked up by other actors in the ecosystem for actually solving the problems on ground, right? So if the participants can actually do that, I think it would be an icing on the cake and would be a wonderful outcome for the hackathon.
Definitely. We are also really excited for the solutions coming in next week, early next week. Uh, but before that, before we head towards the solutioning piece of it, we would like to, you do throw some lights on the problem statements that you recently mentioned, right? And what
Sure, sure.
is one thing that we are looking into in the solutioning piece? We've got a couple of questions already putting in, coming live, mostly related to the use cases that are mentioned on the website, and all of those we can answer them all together at the end before we wrap up the session. But before that, let's hit on to the problem statements and see how can we, then uh,
Sure.
set some context for from your side. Yeah.
Happy to do that. I think the one quick thing that I'd like to share is that it might be better to call them problem areas than problem statements because we've wanted to purposefully keep these a little broad, right? Because agri, skilling, inclusion, entrepreneurship are four broad areas. What I will attempt to do is to give a broad direction in each of the problem areas. I don't want to be prescriptive, right? I don't want to say that within agri you solve only for A or B or C or D. I want to give a broad idea of what is it that we are uh, looking at from a problem area, like point of view, and I leave it to the judgment of the audience and the participants to create solutions within those larger boundaries, right? So I don't want to be prescriptive, like I said. But anyways, I'll start off. So like you said, Shakti, there are four, broad, problem areas. All four problem areas emanate from the fact that we are a livelihood organization at the Nudge. And this hack is looking at creative, tech first, interesting, innovative solutions in four distinct areas in livelihood. One is agriculture, second is skilling, third is inclusion, and fourth is entrepreneurship, right? So I'll pick up the first problem area, that is agriculture. Now, I don't know how many of you know, but in India, out of all of the farmers, more than 85% of the farmers are actually small and marginal farmers, right? A small farmer, by the way, is a farmer who has less than 5 acres of like cultivable land, and a marginal farmer is someone who has less than 2 acres of cultivable land, right? Now, what happens is that with such small land holdings, there is a lot of pressure on profitability and sustainability of the farmer, right? And what this particular problem area really does is that it looks at three specific things within a cycle of farming, right? So it looks at sowing, it looks at production, and it looks at harvesting, right? And in each of these three phases of the farmer or the farm, the farmer faces a bunch of issues, right? So, for example, from a sowing point of view, a small and marginal farmer will typically face a lack of access to quality inputs like seeds and fertilizers and pesticides. He or she will face a lack of availability of credit. There will be a lot of unpredictability of the weather due to the climate change, right? So these are the sets of issues that a farmer is going to face within the sowing part of the farming cycle. Then the next is production, right? So a small and marginal farmer will suffer from a bunch of issues like lack of access to irrigation because a lot of the agriculture is actually rain fed, right? They will have limited access to affordable pesticides, knowledge of pest management, lack of awareness of modern agricultural, technological, and practices, right? The third piece is harvest. So once your crop is sown, once it is produced, then the third step is basically harvesting the crop, right? So from a harvesting point of view, uh, farmers face a lot of issues, right? From a lack of storage facilities to a lack of transportation, like facilities, which lead to a lot of post-harvest loss. Not just that, there is a limited access to organized markets, and there is a lot of reliance on middlemen. What this does is that the farmers are often face or often get very unfair prices for the produce, and they're not able to make farming profitable and work for them, right? Now, within this larger problem area, what we are looking for is tech enabled solutions in any one of these phases: sowing, production, or say harvesting, any one of your choice. And your solution should of course be a tech first solution, it should be a tech enabled solution, and it should help improve profitability for the small and marginal farmer, and should help make farming sustainable for them. So I'll pause here. I'll see if there are any questions, thoughts, or suggestions from you, Shakti, on this.
No, definitely. I mean, we would. I'll pick up one two questions which are very generic here on the chat itself. Those says we've mentioned use cases on the website altogether under each of these themes.
Correct.
I'd like to throw some light that those use cases are for your reference purposes, and exemplary use cases are there. We do not want to direct you towards a particular solutioning, which Manoj also mentioned earlier in the conversation, that we do not want to direct you towards one solutioning piece. Go beyond those, right? Those are just to set up the context for you that what is the bare minimum expected solution that this theme is looking forward to, or what the organizers are looking forward to altogether. But under agriculture or maybe any other themes that we just talk about here, we can definitely go beyond those use cases. To go through those use cases is what my suggestion would be. That would help you understand and frame that the problem statement in your head, so that you can also think out loud beyond those use cases. So do not
Yeah.
restrict yourself to those use cases, and just come up with very unique solutions is what we expect.
Yeah. I think just one quick boundary condition on the agri problem area would be that, we are mentioning this term small and marginal farmers a lot, right? Which means that we want the solution to be for a problem that the small and marginal farmer like faces, right? So there are some large farmers in India also who have like hundreds and hundreds of acres, right? You might come up with a solution that is meant for a problem of the large farmer, right? It is a very valid solution. It will work for the large farmer, and I'm not saying that large farmers don't have any issues, don't have any like problems, but for the purposes of what we are doing here and what we're trying to do here, please focus on your problem archetype as a small and marginal farmer. Focus on their problems and build a solution for them versus building for say a large like farm. That would be the only one prescription I would give you from the agri problem area. Other than that, like Shakti said, it is very directional, it is not meant to be prescriptive.
Yeah, agree. I've got questions from Naveen and Atufa. I will just acknowledge those quickly before we move ahead. While we are talking about this,
Sure.
just to answer both of these questions, it says you can come up with your own problem statements. The only thing that we are looking forward is those problem statements and the solutioning should fall under these themes. So when I say open innovation, it can be anything. But we've got open innovation themes hosted on our platform. If you have not checked out those yet, we're just talking about the first one here, which is agriculture. We'll talk about three of the other theme areas while we go ahead in this conversation. But go check it out. Under those themes, you can come up with your own problem statements, and bring in your own solutions. We'd love to see those. Anything else you want to add up, Manoj, here, or should we go to the next
I
one?
think this is good for now. If there are any, like questions, we can take them at the end, or I'll be very happy to answer the questions later on in case there are some questions over email or whatever else.
Sure,
Uh, but I'll wait for your cues. Yeah.
sure, sure. let's talk about skilling, which is the second problem
Brilliant. Brilliant.
area.
So, yeah, perfect, Shakti. So the second problem area is skilling. And now a quick context here is that, a lot of you would be hearing in the news and reading in the news that India has a great advantage of a demographic like dividend, right? What it basically means is that, more than 50%, in fact, I think about 54% of the population in India is actually below 25 years, right? Now, this in contrast with countries in Europe and in like China, in Japan, and wherever else, we are in a very great, we are in a very advantageous position, because in all of these countries, they are facing a declining sort of population, right? And what it means is that in order to grow GDP, in order to grow your GDP, in order to do work, you need a young sort of population, right? So the fact that 50% of our population is below 25 years, which means over the next 2 to 3 decades, the next 20 to 30 years, we'll have a large base of young population to be able to do work and jobs in various different fields like agriculture and industry and construction and so on and so forth. And therefore, we will be able to follow our dream and become a developed nation, right? However, the problem is that due to the lack of skilling and due to, in some ways, a very poor quality of skilling, in spite of the fact that we have a demographic dividend, we are actually facing a massive shortage of skilled workforce, right? To give you an example, there is a shortage of about 150 million skilled workers in the infrastructure sector. There is a shortage of 35 million skilled workforce in auto sector, 33 million in construction sector, 26 million in clothing and textile, right? And so on and so forth, right? And this is a huge problem, because in order to reap the advantage of the demographic dividend, we need a workforce that is skilled, which has the required skill to be able to produce products of high quality, is productive, and so on and so forth, right? Therefore, in order to really reap this advantage, we as a country, we have to find cheaper, democratic, and more effective ways of skilling the millions of youths who are about to enter the workforce, and reskill the millions of youth who are already in the workforce, right? Now, this particular problem area, therefore, will look at the key challenges to skilling the millions and millions of youths that we have. Now, for example, it will look at the fact that how do we provide quality skilling to to everyone? How do we provide personalized skilling that can work for everyone? How do we reduce the cost of high quality skilling? How can we make things like soft skill, like communication, problem solving, decision making, critical thinking? How can we make skills like these available to millions and millions of people in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities in rural areas, right? How can we remove the barrier of language and democratize skilling for everyone, no matter where they really kind of come from in the country? How do we look at things like digital literacy? How do we look at things like financial literacy, and so on and so forth, right? So I know I've covered a lot of different areas, but I just wanted to showcase the fact that skilling is extremely important, and there are a lot of different ways, a lot of different kind of lenses that you can apply to skilling. And when you think of solutions that can be made for helping with the skilling effort, these are all of the lenses that you can apply when thinking of the solutions. I'll pause here.
Thanks, Manoj, for adding that up. I think we've covered mostly everything here. And if you still anybody who's watching us, right? A lot of people are watching us. If you have any questions, certainly to ask to Manoj or myself, please feel free to post those in live chat itself. We'll pick it up at the end before we wrap up this session. And Manoj, I think that's be the right way instead of just picking up those now. And
I mean, if there are
if
any questions that you feel are like pertinent to everyone, and if we, sort of address those questions, questions that in some ways apply to everyone, please use your like judgment to pick them up. If there are specific questions that you feel are very individual in nature, we can always take those questions at the end of the call also, or like
definitely.
and sort of offline format also. I leave that choice to you.
So people have questions about the template. People have questions about the overall problem statements, that whether or not they can pull in their own problem statement under the themes, which we
They
just now
can.
talked about. You can of course do that. Uh,
Absolutely, they can. Absolutely, they can. See, the only two things that you have to be absolutely sure is that number one, it has to be a livelihood related problem, right? So, for example, so I'll give you an example, right? So, for example, if you are creating a solution for skilling a health worker, let's say an ASHA worker or an A&M worker or whoever, right? Now that is also skilling, right? But that is not linked to livelihood, right? So it's very so there are two things that you have to keep in mind. First of all, the solution that you are building has to have a direct impact on livelihoods, and two, it has to be a solution for the bottom 30, 40, 50, 60% of the population, economically speaking, right? If you are creating a solution for, say, the top 10% of the population, somebody who's going to is already going to an IIT, and you are like building some solution for them, it's a great solution. I'm not saying it's not a good solution, but it doesn't necessarily fit the boundaries of what we are trying to do here. Within this boundary, you are free to think of new areas, think of new problem statements, etc. Please feel free to do that.
Definitely. What I'll do is, Manoj, I've got an interesting question for you. I'll pull that up for you on the screen itself. So somebody has asked, what is needed of the hackathon? We need to be business oriented approach ideas or the prototypes, or do it be only the solutioning piece of it? And like, this is the solution. What way it will work out in business terms, we don't know. Or maybe should it be a mix of technology and business aspect? So if you can
Yeah.
throw some light and guide us, would be great.
Sure, sure. No, so I think there are two layers to it, right? So the fundamental layer of problem solving is that your solution should be solving an individual's like problem, right? So a farmer, a small farmer, or a marginal, like a farmer has a problem. Your solution should solve that problem. Whether it creates a business case or not is a second layer, right? So if you're able to create a proposition, if you're able to create a solution wherein A, you are solving a problem, and at the same time, you're also able to create a viable and feasible business, that is great. But creating a business is not the prerequisite, right? You can get some additional points in case your solution has the viability of a business, but that is not really what we are looking for. We are looking for a very clear understanding, very clear articulation of the problem, and a very simple, innovative, creative, tech first solution to solve for that problem. I hope that answer is clear enough.
I hope that is answered everything, Hindi. I'm sorry if we don't know your name, but that's it, what it is coming
But
from.
that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next one before we lose on time, and maybe we
Sure.
can pick it up all the questions at the later end.
Perfect. So I think we have about 25 minutes more, and we have two problem areas to go. I think we should be able to cover, and then take a few questions or whatever else you think is right. Okay. So the third problem area is, again, it's a very broad, problem area, inclusion, right? And the context here is that, despite the fact that India has had a very rapid economic growth, right? We are almost a $5 trillion economy, but still the truth remains that a significant portion of the population, 90% plus, remains marginalized and excluded from the wider benefits of development, right? So a quick statistic here is that the top 10% of the population of the country actually has about 80% of the total like national wealth, right? So I think this one stat gives you an idea of the amount of economic disparity, right? Now, it is also very, very interesting to see another point of data that I'm going to share. If you look at access to internet and smartphones, right, which is so important that we can't live without it. Like every minute you have to check your Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or email or whatever else, right? But you'll be surprised to know that more than 50% of the country does not have access to internet, and about 53% of the country does not have access to smartphones, right? So just imagine the amount of disparity here, because smartphones and internet are the absolute basic things, absolute basic essential things that are needed to access information, right? And when there is a disparity there, just imagine the amount of disparity, right? And when you think of certain groups, let's say like women or people with disabilities or people from marginalized like communities like SC, ST, OBC and tribals and so on and so forth, and people who live in rural areas, the amount of disparity is just mind sort of boggling, right? So that's the larger context of the problem. Now, this problem area actually looks at inclusion or exclusion, you can say, in a very wide way. It looks at inclusion right from lack of awareness to a lack of access to information, lack of access to products and services like credit, internet, smartphones, lack of access to digital and financial literacy, lack of access to information in, say, one's own language, lack of access for special groups like people with visual disabilities, locomotor disabilities, people from rural areas, women, and so on and so forth, right? So, to put it very broadly, anything that you can think of that prevents another person from participating in the larger markets, from availing opportunities to be a productive member of the society, any such thing can be considered as fit for creating a solution as far as the inclusion problem area is considered. I'll pause here.
Sure, thanks for that brief again, Manoj. So I can see a lot of questions coming in. Every time we are explaining certain problem statements and the theme areas basically. Uh, I don't see much generic questions. Acknowledgement has been received from everything Hindi. That's what he wanted to know. Apart from that, there are certain questions that which we can all together collectively answer at the end. But anything, if any one of you still have any questions regarding inclusion as one of the open innovation themes, please feel free to put it across onto the chat so that we can pick it up at the end and get your questions answered. If we still miss out those questions, we've been floating across a Google form to teams. So just register yourself, be a part of those teams, and you'll receive that Google form in order to get those queries to us, and we'll get those resolved for you. Right.
Brilliant.
Anything else you want to add up, Manoj, here, or should we move ahead into the next one?
No, I think the only thing that I'll add is that between agriculture, skilling, and inclusion, the three problem areas that we've already spoken, these are in some ways intersecting also, right? These are not mutually exclusive. So a lot of people might be thinking कि अच्छा ये problem तो inclusion का है लेकिन ये तो skilling में भी लग रहा है या ये agriculture का है लेकिन inclusion में है. So that is absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine because, like I said, these three problem areas are, they have intersecting orbits. So you can choose any one problem area, whichever you feel is a best fit, and go ahead. That is not a problem at all. That's the
For
only
sure.
thing I think I wanted to add at this point.
Just to add up for everybody who have joined us late, we've been discussing the open innovation theme under Hack for Change, and we've discussed the two categories, two themes, which is agriculture and skilling. This is inclusion, which is the third one. For those people who have joined us late, you can, at the later stage, once we're done with this session also, it'll be hosted live for all of you and it'll stay on Hack to Skills page. You can visit this anytime. It'll also be added onto the dashboard resource section for people who have participated in the Hack for Change. So it'll not go anywhere. You'll not miss out in the insights that Manoj has shared with us for the problem, theme areas. So we'll just quickly move ahead with the fourth and the last one before we deep dive into the submissions and the offline piece of the hackathon. On the
Brilliant.
screen, Manoj, yeah.
Yeah. So the fourth area is is entrepreneurship, and in some ways, entrepreneurship is actually a subset of inclusion. कहीं ना कहीं inclusion का part है, but we really felt that entrepreneurship is an area that is very very important, especially as the country looks to grow and become a developed nation by 2047. Because we cannot be a developed like country unless we have a very large volume of entrepreneurs, right? And today we don't have those, right? Because we need these entrepreneurs to create jobs, to create value, to create a lot of innovation, right? Um Therefore, the reason of having entrepreneurship as a fourth vertical, because we felt कि बहुत critical है, बहुत ज़्यादा important है for the country. Now, this problem area really looks at the challenges of entrepreneurs from the bottom 50-60% of the population. Again, इसमें हम वो entrepreneurs नहीं ले रहे हैं जो कि आप typically देखते हो, entrepreneurs who are raising their Series A and Series B and Series C. हम उन entrepreneurs की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. We are talking about the micro and nano entrepreneurs. These are entrepreneurs whose annual revenue is less than 1 crore. Typically, they will typically a lot of them are self-employed, or they will have anywhere between 2 to 5 team members, right? So these are really small nano entrepreneurs who run these small manufacturing units and like textile units and whatever else, right? So this is the type of entrepreneur we are actually talking about. अब ये जो problem area है, this problem area will look at three things, right? It will look at it will look at three problems that entrepreneurs face. The first is limited access to capital. Second is lack of business know-how, knowledge, training, etc. And third is lack of access to information and tools that every entrepreneur should have. Right? I'll take these one by one. The first is limited access to capital. Right? Now, what happens is that traditionally, जो banks होते हैं, traditionally जो financial institutions होते हैं, right? They require a lot of extensive documentation. They will need a lot of credit history, paperwork, collateral, etc., in order to give an entrepreneur a loan, right? Unfortunately, the micro and nano entrepreneurs do not have this paper trail, do not have all of the collateral, etc., that the banks need, right? And what this means is that entrepreneurs are not able to get the credit. And if a businessman does not get the credit, right, then they struggle to finance their business. They will struggle to purchase inventory. They will struggle to expand operations. They'll struggle to invest in things like technology, infrastructure, hiring, etc., right? And they'll not be able to scale their business, right? That is one of the fundamental issues, right? If you see in India, 99% of all businesses are actually micro and small, right? The reason is because they don't have access to capital, right? Because, like I said, traditional sources will require credit history and paperwork, and they don't have it, right? What could be some of the solutions that we can build for entrepreneurs, right? Can we use alternate lending data, right, to perhaps create creditworthiness for these, micro entrepreneurs? Can we do things like digital microfinance, digital peer-to-peer lending? What are some interesting solutions that we can think of to solve for this problem? So that's one. Second area is lack of business know-how, knowledge, and training, right? So most of the nano and micro entrepreneurs in India, they come from very poor like families, right? And very marginalized families. They are the bottom 30, 40, 50% of the population, right? And therefore they lack access to a formal business education, formal business training, right? What this means is that they don't have the know-how. उनको पता ही नहीं है कि business कैसे manage होता है, business operation कैसे manage होता है, marketing कैसे होती है, financial planning कैसे होती है, how to talk to your customer, how to manage your customer, right? And therefore, entrepreneurs are not able to scale their business, right? There is an opportunity here for us to say develop solutions like an AI-powered learning ecosystem for the nano and the micro entrepreneur? Can we develop a mentorship platform that is accessible to micro entrepreneurs in their own like language, in say their rural language, like a Bengali or a Marathi or a Gujarati or whatever else, right? And the third is entrepreneurs also have an acute lack of access to information and tools, right? So there is a lot of vital information that is absolutely important for entrepreneurs, but they don't have access to it, right? For example, the government has several schemes like the Mudra Yojana and credit schemes, and there are so many schemes, right, for the micro entrepreneurs. But the truth is that the uptake rate is extremely low. Very, very few entrepreneurs will even know about these things, right? Similarly, micro entrepreneurs also lack access to very, very important tools like bookkeeping का system, inventory management का system, purchasing का system, and so on and so forth, right? होता क्या है, if like when they don't have access to this information and access to these tools, they don't have the necessary resources with them to grow their business in a structured, in a sustainable, and in a straightforward manner, right? And then they are basically lost. They don't really know what to do, and there is nobody there to support them, right? Therefore, it is very important that we build tech first solutions to be able to help these millions and millions of nano and micro entrepreneurs grow from being self-employed to decipreneurs to larger entrepreneurs, so that the country can progress at a rapid pace. This is the broad problem area from an entrepreneurship perspective. I'll pause here and I'll hand it over to Shakti.
That was very in depth, and we got a lot of insights. It's personally myself, I was trying to explore and read out this, but thanks for putting those highlights on certain areas that we need to cover and expected solutioning bit of piece. And of course, so all the four problem open innovation themes that we have just discussed are open for solutioning. Not just, we are not restricting you guys to any directional approach, but come up with your own problem statements, come up with your own ideas. One restriction that we took place was into agriculture, wherein we are not talking about larger, farmers. But of course, do check out those all of those open innovation themes, read out, you check out the use cases. Those are for reference purposes. We are reiterating those multiple times here, just because you do not just come up with those that it was on the website and we need to build this. No, that's not going to happen. You're open and free to come up with any problem statements. For your reference, Manoj, we'll just quickly have a couple of questions are there, and we'll start answering those. I'll just quickly walk them through. Somebody had a question about the offline piece of it. Uh, yes. So why don't you cover it up? Would you'd be the right person? So somebody has asked, please discuss something about the offline hackathon when you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a chance.
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share. So, like I said, this is part of a larger, like a convening that we are going to organize from the 20th to 22nd of August. This is going to happen at the India Habitat Center in Delhi, and on the day two and day three, that is on 21st and 22nd of August, the hack is going to be organized. It will start. So like Shakti said, it is a 30-hour hack. It will start at, I think, we have to figure out this, like the exact time, but it'll start at say about 8 a.m. On 21st and go over till the next day. It's an online, it's a offline like a hackathon, continuously overnight hackathon. All of you will be there, coding your solutions, refining your solutions, etc. Now, uh, um, from a team's point of view, we are looking at taking about 30 to 40 teams. Is that right, Shakti?
Yeah,
Yeah.
35
So
to 40 teams doing that.
yeah, so we are looking at taking 30 to 40 teams to be there at the the venue, coding and creating your solutions, and then uh, ultimately pitching to a jury and so on and so forth. What will also be interesting, because you asked about the online hackathon, is that there'll be people from so there'll be a team from Google which will actually be present there during the 2 days. So these are about 8 to 10 software developers and engineers who will be there at the venue, uh, working with you, helping you through your solutions, etc., guiding you and mentoring you. So that will also be a wonderful experience, if I might add.
For sure. Thanks for putting that up, Manoj. The other question is regarding the entrepreneurship section. Sanjay Nair has come up with this question. In the entrepreneurship section, can be, instead of solving a problem which such companies face, find a solution putting forward another entrepreneur idea for the general public. Sanjay, if you can also throw some insights, or maybe something you can rephrase that, or maybe if Manoj, you can answer that from that context point of view,
Yeah.
would be. But still request
I
Sanjay if
think,
you can
yeah,
add
I'm not
something.
sure if I'm not sure if I completely understood, but I think what I understood was he was saying that instead of creating a solution for the problem of a company, can we throw ideas to public? Is what I think he wanted to say. Can we throw entrepreneurial ideas to public? So I don't know. He wants to create some solution which can give general public ideas on what business to do. I think that is what he's trying to say. Uh, See, again, this is a very specific use case. I think the way to think about deeply is that, is this a real, is this a real issue, is this a real problem that an entrepreneur is going to face, right? Because at the end of the day, we are going to judge you by how deeply you have understood the problem. Is the problem a real problem? Is this a genuine problem that an entrepreneur is going to face? And then look at the solution, right? So the understanding of the problem, the depth of the problem, and how deeply you've understood the problem is also equally, like important as much as the solution. So I won't specifically comment on this particular thing, but I'll. This is the directional way in which you may want to think about it.
Oh, sure. Thanks for adding up that, Manoj. I've got another question from Gaurav Vasisht. Gaurav is asking, do we need to start working on the prototype demonstration in the PPT submissions round one, which is the current stage, which is idea submissions, or just the idea should work fine?
Shakti, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so I'd love to. So currently, Gaurav and others who are watching us live here and who have yet to participate with us, the current stage of the hackathon is under registrations and idea submissions. So the bare minimum expectations from all the teams that are being formed under Hack for Change is to form up a team, come up with an idea, solving a great problem under those themes that are there on the website. There's a template that you would see, right? There's a template that you would see. I'll walk you through, guys, with the submission piece of it. But before we do that, I'll just quickly go through that there's a template in which we have mentioned what is our expectations for you to submit, right? Bare minimum expectations, not just the code and all of those. So this is just the idea phase, so that we can get a better understanding of what are you actually trying to build before you actually start doing hands on top of it. So Gaurav, Fanisco, all of those people who have questions regarding the working prototypes, current stage, we are only expecting you to give us the ideas in a PPT. That is the bare minimum. And later stage, while we move towards the hackathon more depth, the second phases, which is the prototype development and all of those, we would certainly push across you the information that what is to be done. Anything, Manoj, you want to add up there? Okay, great. So I'm just going through the other questions. Okay, there's a question regarding the mentorship. Again, I guess that's from Gaurav Vasisht again. What if we have a nice idea of some problem statement, but when it comes to develop the tech, we got stuck in that? Will we get any guidance from the mentors regarding this?
Actually, you will, but I guess it has to be after the prototyping stage. Between the idea and the prototype, like you'll have to come on it. You'll have to develop on your own, right, Shakti? And once you've developed the prototype, I think we will have. So we have mentors from Google who we are going to like assign in batches, and they will not just evaluate your submissions, but they will also help you, like you said, when you get stuck. How much stuck, I don't know, but Google mentors will be there to help you because part of this experience is also the fact that you will also learn and you will also grow as coders and people, right? So there is that element certainly that we are trying to build. But Shakti, I think, is the right person to answer this.
Yeah, definitely. So, if in case you have certain problem statements, we would love to hear that from you, right? And if you're stuck somewhere, please feel free to write it back to us in case we can help you out, solve any problems. That's our main motive to, enhance, enrich your experience of the hackathon. Feel free to write back to us. If anything can be done from our side, we'll get back to you with our technical experts, with our different teams, and help you solve those problems there and then itself. But as Manoj said, mentors for the hackathon from the industry will come down on the finale days offline and will help you streamline your processes and guide you during those 30 hours. What are you trying to build, and trying to bundle up everything for the presentations. So those mentors will be available during the offline hackathon. We've got a question. What is the prize money again? I'll flash that on the screen for people who have joined
2.5
us.
lakhs for the first prize, 1.5 lakhs the first runner-up, and 1 lakh for the second runner-up. And this is just the cash bid. There is a lot of moolah that Google is also offering. Um, in fact, I should also mention that like the participating teams that are structured as startups, either already structured as startups, right, like a legal entity, or are planning to structure themselves as startups between now and the hackathon. If their solution is good, if their solution is feasible and viable and has business value to it, then there is also an opportunity to be evaluated by Google for their App Skiller Academy, which is basically like a incubation center for startups. And as part of that, in case you do get selected, you will have access to a lot of mentorship and resources and Google Power. So there are a bunch of non-cash, incentives also that Shakti had, referred to at the start of this particular stream.
For sure. I'll take up one last question and then head towards, you know, this is a question coming in multiple times, so that I'll flash that to you particularly, Manoj. Are
Yeah.
travel and accommodations provided to teams? How many team members must attend the hackathon in person if required, as we need to prepare for the same if we
Yeah.
get selected?
Yeah. So Shakti, please do correct me, but I think that teams are from 1 to 4. Like 4 is the maximum size of the team, and 1 is the minimum
Yes.
size of the team, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, we would like all of the members in the team to be there. So to answer to your question, we would love for all of the members to be there, because there is a fair bit of coding that you are going to be doing over the 2 days there, right? And the more people there are in your team, the more output you will be able to produce during the 2 days, right? So purely from that point of view, the more people there are in your team, the better it is. That's point number one. On travel and accommodation, we do not offer travel. Accommodation is something that overnight hackathon, since it's an overnight hackathon, there will be facilities for you to rest and take a nap and all that. Since it's an overnight hackathon, we expect all of you to be coding throughout the night and basically churning out solution and so on and so forth. Therefore, while there is a place for you to rest and all that, there is no proper accommodation. Like there's no proper place to sleep and all that. We are a not-for-profit organization, as I shared when I started the whole thing, and we are not doing this to generate money. We are not doing this to generate like revenue, and therefore our ability to fund the travel accommodation for all of you is severely like restricted because of this. So I'll pause here.
Thanks for putting that up, Manoj, very broadly. And thank you everyone for putting those questions. Those are not answered. We've tried to cover every aspect of it, but we'll surely circulate the Google form again tomorrow. And you can, if you have any questions left out, we should be more than happy to answer those to you. Please feel free to post those on this Google form. So before we wrap up this session, we're already done with an hour's time, but I'll quickly walk you through how the submission piece taking place on the platform itself. That's the hackathon website. So if you go to hack4skill.com/hack for change 2024, you should be able to, land onto a page like this. All of the information is floated across the website, all the open innovation themes. If you want to read more about it, the sample use cases are there, multiple use cases are there. So just don't be, bounded to these use cases. Feel free to come up with your own problem statements as well. A broad timeline, a brief timeline is hosted on the platform itself. Please feel free to go through that, the prize money, rewards, and what are the offerings by the organizers. We have covered up everything on the website. So people who have already registered must have seen their personalized dashboard, but people who are new to us, new to this initiative, instead of this button on the right hand side dashboard which says dashboard, you should be able to see register now. Once you're registered, you should be able to land onto a page like this, which will welcome you. Of course, that's my own personalized dashboard. That's why it's coming up with my name. and then you should be able to see the different problem statements. So any one of those you can select out of these a checkbox. So for an example, if I should be able to, I am planning to put across my idea for scaling, I should be able to click on scaling. Done. Those will be removed from here. But if you still are figuring out that what is the problem or what is the theme area that I want to solve, then you can go back to the submission section, which is flickering here, and you can change it from here. So that is just one option that you can go ahead with at one go. But other than that, you can also keep changing it before the idea submissions closes. So before I talk about the idea submissions, I'll talk about the team management, that because the team formation is most important, and then you move ahead with the idea phase of it. So if you click on to team management, this is the section where you can create your own teams. You can create teams, you can join teams. It's very easy. You just have to enter your team name, create the team, invite people around you, your friends, your colleagues, and all of those. It is a very easy process. They'll receive an email regarding the invite, or maybe you can copy paste the invite link, send them on WhatsApp, text messages, emails. They should be able to join your team immediately. In terms of submissions, there is a template that we have hosted on the platform altogether. If you're able to see this, I'll just if you're able to see this template, it has covered in terms of the headers, what are we expecting from you, brief about the idea, opportunities, list of features, process diagrams, architecture diagrams, wireframes, if you have the structures ready, architecture diagram, what is the tech stack, estimated cost if you have that. And this is a free slide, and then that's it. So these are the top headers that we are expecting from you to cover. And once we are done, you can download this from here. This is a Google slide, so would request not to punch in your request. Instead, download it from here, make edits, convert it into a PDF, and then make your submissions here. Before 21st of July, 21st of July being the last date for your submissions, registrations, feel free to go through the website, register yourself, come up with your innovative ideas under any of the open innovation themes. We'd be more than excited to look at your innovative ideas, uniqueness, and walk you through, and look forward to see you all on the offline hackathon. So these are the coverings that you need to submit along with the PPT: positive USP, your tech stack, your idea brief, and then just complete your submissions. That is it. Post this session will also be hosted under this resource section, so you should be able to find this. And we'd be more than happy to see all of your ideas coming down before 21st. And I wish all of you all the very best. Manoj, if you want to add up something here to this, we'd love to hear some few words from you before we wrap up the session.
No, no, it's been exciting. It's extremely exciting to be at this moment. I'm so happy. Like, I don't know how many people were there, to be very honest, but I am sure there were quite a few looking at the like the frequency of the questions and all of that. I'm just looking forward to a lot of participation. I'm looking forward to a lot of interesting solutions coming up. And I hope that in this process, all of you, all of the people who are participating, get to understand the real important and critical issues that need to be solved from a livelihood point of view. The problems in agriculture, skilling, inclusion, and entrepreneurship that are so critical for our country to develop and grow. And I wish all of the participants a lot of you know like wishes and best of luck. And I hope really amazing like solutions come. And I look forward to seeing everyone on the 21st and the 22nd of August.
Great. Thank you so much, Manoj. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching us and being there with us throughout the session. We're really excited. We're looking forward for your unique ideas to come down, and we wish you all the very best. And thank you so much, Manoj, for sparing us time and
Thank
giving
you
us
so much.
those. You know, we'd love
Thank you so
to
much.
interact with you more, and we'd love to see all of you who are watching us today. Some of you joining us offline during the hackathon itself. So all the very best. We'll see you very soon. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Shakti. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.